It's the smell of money. It's the don't wanters. It's houses just like the one I'm going to walk you through that people don't want. But yet, if you're smart enough and you educate yourself enough, you can make massive amounts of money off purchasing foreclosures. I'm going to share with you exactly how to get the money, how to finance them, how to flip them, how to negotiate an offer on them, and most importantly, how to make massive amounts of money off buying foreclosures. My name's Wayne Turner. For nearly 30 years, I've done just about everything when it comes to real estate. So this isn't textbook stuff I'm reading. This is boots on the ground from thousands of real estate transactions. So grab a pen and a piece of paper. You're going to want to write this stuff down. Now, the first thing you got to do, and it's the most boring thing, you got to get your finances in order. You got to get your money right. It's fun to walk around, look at these, and kind of dream and think, man, what could I sell this property for? Well, you got to get with a good agent or have it appraised. But most importantly, you got to get your finances in order. I always suggest to people, go to local small town banks or go to credit unions. They'll typically loan you 70 to 80% of the value of the house. In other words, if it appraises for $200,000 as is, oftentimes they'll loan you 70 to 80% of that. You have to make up the difference in cash, but it's a good way to get into a foreclosure. Now, if your credit's not the best, one way to get financing is what they call hard money lenders. These are like the BC lenders. In other words, they'll loan you the money, but you're going to have to pay a substantially higher interest rate. But I always tell people it's not the cost of the money, it's the availability of the money. Because most of the time when you're financing these, you're only doing it on short term. And it doesn't matter if you're flipping it or if you're actually going to hold it. What you got to do is get the property, fix it up, and then once it's fixed up, then you can have it reassessed to its value. In other words, have it reappraised, and after that, you can pull financing out of the property and pay off that hard money lender, or you can just sell the property, make a profit. Now, the best way to find these houses, quite simply, is to have an agent to work for you on your behalf. They kind of have the inside scoop oftentimes, and they can know how to locate, how to find them. They know the agents who list a lot of foreclosures. It used to be years ago that they would list the foreclosures in the newspaper. Now they list them on websites. So now they've taken it a step further. All these foreclosures that you see on the market, they're actually listed with real estate companies, and the real estate companies list the property. So we as real estate brokers, we have access to these properties. That's why I always suggest to people, you don't have to, it just makes it a little bit easier, and you're not having to pay them out of pocket to be searching for properties for you. You just hope that if they find you a house, you can use them to help you negotiate the best offer on the property. But look, you can't get too hell-bent on making this huge amount of profit. The experience, knowledge you're going to get out of buying a foreclosure, and this is actually a foreclosure. It's on the market for $223,000. It's a 5-bedroom, 4 full bath house on 1.5 acres of land. It is available for sale. If you wanted to purchase it, of course, go to contactwayne.com. Let me know. I can write the contract for you and close in a week. Most importantly, don't always try to make a huge profit. If you don't make a huge profit, if you just make $500, the knowledge and the experience that you gain is nothing that you can learn in any university. Now look, that said, I'm going to show you inside this house, and the goal is to actually make a profit. Why do all the work without making a profit, right? But I always tell people, if you set your sights on making this huge profit and then you only make $5,000 or $10,000, you'll set yourself for disappointment every time. Now, it's real important to know you don't have to have a real estate agent to find these properties. You can get out and drive around, what I call driving for dollars. You just get out and you drive around, you drive street after street after street, and you're going to look for 3 things on properties. One, you're going to look for desolate looking properties, grass not mowed, stuff's growing up in all the landscape, mulch beds, all that. You're also going to look for electrical meters. Are the electrical meters there or not? If the electrical meter is not there, there's a great chance that that property is a foreclosure. And then the third thing, you're going to want to look for stuff like this in the window. If there's any kind of papers in the windows like this, and you can look and see the property's vacant, chances are it is a foreclosure. They'll have a number on here for you to call, and bottom line, they just say, hey, you can attempt and try to buy it through us, or you can have an agent represent you and look out for your best interest on your behalf. They don't care either way. Now, one of the worst things you can do is to get emotionally attached to the property. You look at the property, you like the price, you walk through it, and you're thinking, man, I don't want to lose this one. And you think, well, it just hit the market, so I don't want to offer too low. I always suggest to people, make an offer that you feel comfortable based on your knowledge, level of experience. Have a contractor look at it. Never buy a house without a home inspection. But most importantly, don't get emotionally attached to the property. You pay for that property what you feel is comfortable. And you may, listen, you may look at 100 properties to make 10 offers to buy one. So let's take a look in this house, and just wait for a second because the lighting is going to shift a little bit. We were outside, now we're coming inside. But you can see, you know, it's like you look around at a property and you think, oh, wait, that's not that bad. Well, until you start looking up at ceilings and things like that, you walk through a property. So you got to have the property inspected. And listen, when you buy foreclosures, they will let you inspect the property. 95% of the time, they don't care if you inspect it or not. However, they don't turn on the electricity in most cases. Sometimes the electricity is on because agents will turn on electricity, but oftentimes the electricity is not on, the water's not on, and they'll want you to do that at your expense, which is okay. You'll typically have that 10 to 14 day window to do your due diligence. And when you turn all those items on, you just want to have the HVAC check, the electrical check, and do a good thorough home inspection. Now that does not mean they're going to fix anything. That just means that you're doing it for your own cognitive knowledge to know what is wrong with the property and what you have to fix. Now look, when you're walking through these houses, don't walk through them alone. If they're listed with a real estate company, you're supposed to have a real estate agent walk you through the house, walk with you, but you always want more than one person. Here's the reason why. You see that right there? You don't know if there's somebody underneath that. Squatters get in these houses. It may not even be their home, but believe you me, I've walked in on lots of people that don't own the home, but they're hidden in the house and they're living in the house. So for your safety, you want to make sure you don't walk through a foreclosure by yourself. But look, it's important to know, a house like this one, it's priced at $64 a square foot. The house is not that old, it's about 25 years old. It's got big rooms in it, it's got fireplace. As real estate brokers, we don't do inspections on the property. We just get it in its condition. Oftentimes it's full of stuff, it's full of belongings of people. And what I say and suggest and tell everybody is, don't get so distracted by the odor. The smell of things plays a huge emotional factor when it comes to buying property. That's why I say that's the smell of money. Because when it smells bad, most people don't want it. They can't take the smell enough to think, how is this ever going to be better? And so they don't make offers. So oftentimes, houses that smell like really strong cigarette smoke and pet odor, those typically are the best deals. So I'll share a quick story with you. I bought a house one time and the neighbor came over and said, I can't believe you're buying this house. And I said, well, I'm a real estate investor. I'm buying it to fix it up, to flip it. And he said, I bet it smells bad in there. I said, oh yeah, it smells horrible. It smells like a barn. And he said, well, they had a horse living in the house. True story, believe it or not. They actually had one of those little Shetland ponies living in the home. But I smelled money. Now look, I didn't mean to offend anybody by saying it smelled like a barn. Actually, it smelled way worse than a barn. It smelled like a barn that had never been cleaned out. But you get the point, right? So when you're looking around, you see all of this stuff. You see cigarette butts and you see smoke and you smell smoke and it just smells horrible. But you gotta know that all of this can be fixed, repaired, it can be cleaned up with fresh paint, new floors. But oftentimes when you smell pet odor and smoke, you got to make sure that you replace your AC ducts. All those ducts that you can't see, you have to replace the ducts, or at the very minimum have them cleaned, because that odor that you smell in the air, you can paint and put new floors and put new everything. But once you fire the units up, it's still going to circulate that smell back into your brand new refurbed house. Now, as I walk through this house, I want to point out a couple of features that will save you money and cost you money really fast. And that's windows, for example. You see a window, that's about $250 to replace that window. You can count the windows and they will add up real fast. You may have a double window, or if it's one of those big Palladium windows, that's going to cost you a couple of grand. So add those up, put the pencil to the paper and know what you're getting into. There's good rocks, you got tray ceiling, you got can lights, you got split bedrooms, all of that good stuff. But more than likely, you're gonna have to replace doors, you're gonna replace hardware. So you gotta get prices on all that. That's why I always say, it's not gonna hurt you at all to go to these places and add up. How much does it cost for a doorknob, hinges, windows, everything? That way, you're not so blind going in. Now I want you to see an example here. This is a bathroom and it's kind of rough. Believe it or not, the house doesn't smell that bad. But this bathroom, you can see there's a leak there. Bank's not gonna fix that. They'd rather sell it, dump it as is where he is. It's a big bathroom, which is nice. The commode's right over there. That means you can do a lot of configuring with this house. This house is raised. When it's raised, it makes it easy to get to the plumbing. You can move stuff around. But personally, the less work, the better when it comes to moving all that stuff around. Leave that tub, put a different tub in there, put a different window right there to add more light, put a seamless glass shower. And listen, there's a single vanity, put a double vanity sink right there. You got a walk-in closet, and it's money. Now, as I mentioned, you do not have to have a real estate agent to work for you, but what you want to do is to have somebody, if you will, and most of the time they're an agent, they're going to look up the property, find the property, they're going to tell you what it's worth right now in today's dollars and what it's worth in its improved value. And a good real estate agent can do that within about 10 minutes. I have real estate investors, they'll call me and say, Wayne, got one. What's it worth now? What's it worth later? I can tell them in 10 minutes. and they can shoot it up or shoot it down that quick. And the best way to get quick at it is to simply do it. But if you're not going to do it, at least be prepared before you get into doing it. And what I mean by that is go to appliance stores and find out how much appliances cost. What does it cost to replace a water heater? That's about $800 or $900. What does it cost to replace a double oven or a single oven, a cooktop, a dishwasher, HVAC, all of that stuff. So you kind of got a good idea. Go, okay, what's it cost to replace a roof? What's the difference in the roof? You find a good roofer that can give you an estimate by using technology and software. They don't even have to go to the property. They can give you an estimate within 24 hours to replace the roof on the property. So by doing that, even if you don't buy that foreclosure, go out and look at a foreclosure, walk through some of them, see what appliances you have to replace, put the pen to the paper, call the roofer, and see what it would cost to actually fix up that property. That's the quickest way to learn before you actually jump in and make a purchase. Now look, another quick way to learn is to go out and try to find real estate agents that represent actual investors and see if the investor will take an hour or two just to talk with you. You'd be surprised if you just ask people for help, how helpful they'll be, and they'll show you and tell you everything. They'll show you the biggest mistakes they did, and that's the questions that you want to ask. What's the worst thing you ever did when you flipped a property? What would you never do again? What would you change? What would you do different? You'd be amazed. And listen, the answer is always no unless you ask. You may have to ask 2 or 3 people and you may get no, we're not going to help you because you're going to be my competition out there buying properties next to me. But you'd be surprised. A lot of people, they're extremely helpful. Now on a house like this, it's priced at $223,000. How much you put in it just depends on the person buying the property because it's going to vary whether or not you replace the baseboards or paint the baseboards, whether or not you put $7 a square foot floor in or you put $2 a square foot floor in. All of that's going to vary. I can tell you this house is priced at $223,000. It's 3,200 square feet on an acre and a half, and it's worth about $375,000 if you completely fix it up. Now, a big mistake that people make is they purchase a property, get emotionally connected to the property. They want to do nice things because it's natural. You want to take pride in your work. You want it to look good, but the house has to fit the surroundings. You can get so emotionally connected to the property that you put such high-end fixtures to the property that you find out you spent more money and you've really ate into a lot of profit. Now, the best way to learn how to fix these properties up is YouTube, right? Watch videos. It makes it seem real simple. But if you need subcontractors, one of the quickest way and the best way to go about finding the subcontractors, just go through new home subdivisions. These roofers, framers, painters, plumbers, electricians, you name it. A lot of these guys and gals would be happy to do side work for a couple hours here and there on the weekends. You throw them a couple $100 and they do fantastic work. So that's a good way if you need somebody, need subcontractors, and you can build a wonderful relationship with people like that that carries on for years. So look, how to find them, get with agents and drive for dollars. How to get the money, contact your local bank, credit union, go to BC lenders, go to private money lenders, ask them if they'll loan you money based on a secured property such as a foreclosure. The next thing is do your home inspection. The next thing is ask a real estate agent to give you at now price at its current condition and then a house into the future. And most importantly, don't get so emotionally attached to the property. It can cost you an arm and a leg if you do. And don't try to make a huge profit on your first deal. If you make $10, $12, $15,000, that's an absolute win. My name is Wayne Turner. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Leave a comment if you've ever bought a foreclosure, you've made money, you've lost. That's how we all learn. Until next time,